to Studio Talks with the Influential Petite, and I'm your host, Shadana Miranda. We are jumping back into the SMART Goals series. Last week, I introduced you to the SMART Goals series and what it stands for and how it can help you in your business. And so this week, we are kicking off the S in SMART Goals, which stands for specific. We're going to be talking about how you can be specific in setting your goals. So today I brought in a special guest because of course I've used a SMART goal system before, but I'm not an expert, y'all, but I am good at using a system. But I want to make sure you get the best information that you need so that you can apply it to your life, your business, your finances, whatever it is. So I'm going to invite Ms. Zoe Adams, who is a business consultant. She is a social media, She is a business consultant, she is a social media manager, and she is a content creator. So she is always using the SMART goals in her business for her clients. That's the only way that she can see results. So I'm just going to introduce her in a moment, and you stay tuned. Hello everyone. I am back with Ms. Zoe. Isn't she beautiful? Okay, so she's going to be talking to us about how we can be specific with our goals. So are you ready to let the people know, Zoe?
Most definitely. So the first step of being specific with your goal is having a good understanding of your goal and what it means to you, why you're trying to accomplish this goal. Everyone's different, so everyone's time restraints are different, everyone's resources are different, and if you don't take these things into account, it can lead to you failing to complete your goal. So I would say, for example, if you're trying to lose weight, firstly, you should understand that if you have any type of physical limitations, like if your knees are bad, if you have a bad back, these are things that can impede you from losing weight at the same time as anyone else. So you can't have your plan based off what everyone else would do. You have to tailor it to your own needs. And that's another thing I like about the SMART goal system. It allows you to tailor a plan to your own needs so that you're more likely to be successful, because no one knows your needs better than you.
That's true.
And also another thing I would say for the SMART goal system is that it helps someone like me who can get very anxious if she doesn't feel like everything is planned perfectly to a T. So if I have a guideline for how to sit down and say, okay, I need to make sure I have this as part of my plan, this aspect of my plan, and this aspect, and I know I'm gonna have trouble here, here, and here, I can make sure that everything goes just as smooth as I can possibly get it to go, because I'm looking at things from ahead of a time and saying, okay, so at this point, I may have an issue doing this, or I may have an issue doing this. So to counter that, I have something that I will use to help me.
Okay, I have a question. Could you mention something about like being a perfectionist and you have to have everything outlined? So what would you say to people who are perfectionists and so they set out to do the SMART Goal series and then they're hitting their targets, but sometimes they're not quite there?
Okay.
What would you suggest for that, or how do they handle that?
Well, for me personally, I had to realize that nobody's holding a bigger microscope over me than me. So you have to realize sometimes that you're not always going to meet your goals exactly how you want to meet them. If it's something new you're doing, you have to give yourself even more leeway, because you have no idea what obstacles you can run in. There's only so much you can learn from reading or from other people telling you their experiences. So just be patient with yourself and give yourself time to grow and really learn as much as you can in your field.
I like what you said by be patient with yourself and give yourself enough time to grow. And one thing I'm learning is to celebrate the small wins. So myself as a business owner, if I have like a goal of making $5,000 a month, but I only made $4,200 or I only made $4,000, I didn't get to $5,000. But that's still a win. I still made something, because it's a lot of business owners, it's a lot of people who's not making anything. So celebrate those small wins and don't be so hard on yourself.
Exactly, because when you're happy about what you're doing and you're able to say, okay, I wasn't able to complete this, but I'm still happy that I was able to complete this portion of that, then you'll also be more motivated to keep going. If you keep beating yourself down every time you make a mistake or something doesn't go as planned, you're not even going to want to have the motivation to complete that goal.
I agree. Okay. So this is really, really good information. So you are very helpful. So I do have one more question before I let you leave. I would like for you to tell our viewers, like, how much time would you wait to actually plan out your goal or execute it, in terms of you have a goal in mind, you want to be specific. Do you immediately try to implement that goal, or would you wait like a week or 2 weeks and, gather like your resources first? Like, how long should you wait between the idea stage and the planning stage of trying to be specific with your goal? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And I would say it depends on the situation and what type of goal it is. If it's something I would want to complete sooner, then depending on my level of knowledge and the resources I have at hand, I would probably start that goal sooner rather than later, just because I have a completion date affecting it. Now, if it wasn't, I would probably give myself, as much time as I need to really learn. And if I have that the opportunity to give myself time to learn, that's what I would really prefer to do. And then, depending on certain goals, your resources may be harder to get into. For example, if you're trying to run a business, you may not get your hands on your inventory, if you have inventory, for a minute. So it really just depends on the situation and what works best for that individual. But I would say it is very hard to start when you have little to no knowledge on the subject and little to no resources, or poor quality resources. So it's always best to give yourself as much time as you can so you can have the most success.
Okay, so key point I've gathered is do your research. Do your research. Okay, so my final question, just thinking about it, with technology taking off, everything is moving into the digital space. We are in a digital area. Would you recommend any apps that can help people be better planners when setting their goals? Anything that can enhance the goal process and like speed it up and just keep people on track?
Okay. Well, I will say for people that are well with electronics and can go back to an app and still be productive and not forget about the app, then notes are very helpful, alarms and setting different types of reminders, which most phones allow you to do just with their general settings. I won't get too specific into some apps because some apps play on the Android surface but don't play on the iPhone, so and vice versa. But those 3 basic apps are definitely very helpful for those that can use phones to become more productive and successful. But there are people that the phone is just not the best option for them, whether it is that they just don't keep it on them too often, or they're going to forget that they have an app in there with all these steps and plans in there. So for some people it is better to pull out a manila pad or something and jot it down, or have sticky notes everywhere. So it really just depends on the person.
I agree. I like what you said, depends on the person, because personally I've been keeping a budget. Now, it took me 30 years to finally keep a budget. I've tried so many apps like Mint.com and so many different budget apps, and I would start, but I would never complete it. So I really had to get old school. I'm actually using a manual, like a register, where I write out all my expenses. So I write out how much I have in my account, like how much I'm starting with, and every time I buy food or if I go to the movies or anything I do, I deduct it, so I keep a mental note of how much I have in my account. Of course, I still use my mobile banking, just to keep track of it all, but a manual register really helps me keep track. So it really just does depend on the person.
Yes, I like the idea of having a manual register.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being here. This was so helpful, wasn't it, guys? So let's thank Zoe.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for tuning in, everyone. So we talked about how you can be specific with your goals this week. If you tune in next week we'll be talking about how you can measure those goals. You want to make sure your goals are measurable, because when they're measurable, you can actually see results. So stay tuned next week. You are watching Studio Talks with the Influential Petite, and I'm your host, Shadayna Miranda, of course. And so continue to stick around and stick with the Influential Petite, because I will get you where you need to be. Bye-bye.